Hello, this is Andrew with Million Dot Bike, and these are a pair of Hiplok security ties. Z-Lock, this one's the Z-Lock combo, this one's just the Z-Lock. As you can probably guess from the name combo, this one has a combination on it, and the standard Z-Lock uses this metal thing here, which is on the back, which is kind of like a SIM key for a phone. You push it into these holes here to release the locking mechanism on the tie. My first impression of these is that they are absolutely brilliant. It's exactly the kind of thing that I could see taking on a long solo ride where I'm going to have to use the toilet and I'm going to have to refill my water bottles, and it just adds that little bit of convenience that I would have either to have to take the bike into a gas station or take a little bit more risk and just like lean it up against the side of the building or whatever when I go inside. Now, some people might say this isn't a real bike lock, and I would say you're right, it's not. But that's not necessarily a problem, because like all security measures, the tie here is about creating a level of inconvenience. So let's actually take a step back and talk about what security is and what makes this such a brilliant idea. So if you think about the door lock on your house, we like to think that it, stops people from coming in the house, but it actually doesn't. It just raises the bar of inconvenience. So you either need to have a crowbar, or you need to kick in the door, or you need to go in the window that's next to the door. But that it actually doesn't really stop anybody. It just changes the equation to make it inconvenient for them to walk in your house. And that's what this does too, is either you use one of these to tether your bike or the bike frame or the saddle even to something that's fixed, or lacking something that's fixed, you could even slip this through the tire and the frame so the wheels don't spin. Obviously, that would be a last resort for a couple of reasons. One, somebody just pick up the bike, and if you have an adequately light bike, then that's not a super big challenge. But secondly, if they don't know that it's there, they could destroy your expensive wheel. So I would say that's an option, but that's probably not the best option. Hiplok claims that they'll fit in your jersey pockets. We'll test that in a bit, but right now, let's get the weight. First step, I guess we'd have to do is actually take off the label here. And for the one with the key, we of course need to make sure that we weigh the key, which, just for demonstration, you kind of stick it in there like that, and then it can move. So let's throw that on here. So 18.9 grams without the key, and then 24.7 with it. And then this one's probably a little bit easier because I can just take that off and throw it on. And that's 68.7 grams. So climbers probably want to go for the key one. Some interesting features here. It's not just plastic, which I didn't mention, but let's have a look at what it is here. So you can see there's a bit of steel in here, and it actually runs the whole length. I don't know if you can see inside those holes, but you probably, if I go like this, you can see the light shining off of them. Just a length of like flexible steel through here, which would make it cutting resistant. I'm not actually going to try to cut it to see, how, because that would break it, how much force it would take. And again, that's not really the point. The point isn't that somebody couldn't destroy this. The point is that when you tether your bike to something, is it just makes it that much more inconvenient for somebody to take your bike. And if they get you 5 or 10 minutes, or just more importantly, dissuade somebody from that opportunistic crime, then brilliant. That's exactly what you want. The use case for these Hiplocks is pretty clear. You throw it in your jersey, you bring it with you, you can secure your bike, or at least make it more inconvenient for somebody to run off with your bike. But I think that in most scenarios, you're more likely to take one of these along with you if you're going on a longer ride. So I've got here everything I would take on a 100-mile or so ride. And then over here we have some optional components. jacket if it's a little bit chilly, and then an extra Cliff Bar just in case. So let's get started. Given the times, obviously some hand sanitizer, a mask, and a credit card in the zipper pocket here. Probably want to also throw key in the zipper so you don't lose that. Some sunscreen lip balm. I have asthma, so I bring an inhaler. 2 packs of shot blocks. Cliff Bar. Of course, the phone. And then 2 packs of drink mix to refill along the way. And then we just grab the big one, throw it in there, no problems. And of course, if the big one fits, the small one will also fit. And you can see here, you can completely tuck it in. So what happens if we add our optional components, Cliff Bar and the jacket? Let's get that small. Okay, it's getting pretty tight. Yeah, so I can't get this in anymore, but I think if I put the jacket around the hip lock, just tuck it in there, all set. And of course, the big one fits. The small one should also fit, but let's just, do it for giggles. Again, put the jacket around it. So, as you can see, it's pretty easy to get these guys in the jersey, take it along with you, even if you have a ton of kit also stashed in there.
So the last thing I want to talk about is how I like to use the Z-Lock security ties. But before we do that, I want to say thank you to Hiplok for sending them. This review would not have been possible otherwise, so thank you, Hiplok. In my opinion, the best way to use these is either by securing your saddle or your handlebars kind of in the way that I've shown here in the photo, which if you have a cutout or relief channel in your saddle, you can go through the relief channel and through the rail into or around whatever you're securing it to. Or if you don't have the cutout, you can just use the saddle rails and use the Z-Lock around that. That's probably the most common way that I use it. But then the second most common way that I would use it is when I'm resting the handlebars against an object that I can secure it against, like I've seen it here on the right, just behind the hood. It might be possible for somebody to get it out, but they would, have to really wrangle with it. And that's the whole point. The point is not to make it impossible for somebody to steal your bike. It's more to add inconvenience to them just running off with it. I've also found that besides that level of security or inconvenience, they also make the bike less likely to fall over in the case where it's windy outside. I've had that actually happen and have bent the rear derailleur hanger when the bike blew over. When you've secured the bike to an object, it's much less likely to have that problem. So that's another value add for using the Z-Locks. So I'm really pleased with it. Of course, it won't go around everything. Like here's an example of a lamppost, which is just too big. But as long as you can find something like a tree or a signpost or a gate, then they work brilliantly. They just add that little bit of extra assurance that your bike's going to be there, still going to be there when you come back from getting a water or using the restroom. Hopefully you found that useful. If you did, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, let me know, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thanks.